Celtic just drew 2-2 at Ibrox in one of the most dramatic comebacks of the season, and Martin O'Neill's post-match response to the hostile crowd is absolutely brilliant. We've also got major transfer news as the club targets a new defender for next season, referee appointments for the Aberdeen clash, and a Celtic loanee who just put on a masterclass performance. It's been a massive 24 hours, but first make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content. Martin O'Neill walked into Ibrox knowing exactly what was coming. A legendary Celtic manager returning to that dugout was never going to be welcomed quietly. From the first whistle to the final exchange on the touchline, he heard plenty from the stands. He didn't flinch. The match itself swung wildly. Celtic were 2 down at the break and looked rattled. By full time, they dragged it back to 2-2 and could have won it. The noise followed every turn. After the game, O'Neill was asked about the atmosphere. Rather than complain about the abuse, he leaned into it. For him, that edge is part of what makes this fixture what it is. Here's what he said: "I'd have been disappointed if I hadn't been getting it." That response says plenty about how O'Neill views the rivalry. He's managed in derbies before, both in Glasgow and elsewhere. He understands that if the opposition support are quiet, something's wrong. On Sunday, the volume inside Ibrox rose early as Rangers pressed and scored twice. It dipped in the second half when Celtic took control. That shift in sound mirrored the game. Celtic now move on to Aberdeen with the title race tight. The pressure won't ease. If anything, it'll build. Judging by his reaction at Ibrox, O'Neill wouldn't have it any other way. Now for the main story, as Celtic will target the addition of at least one new centre-back this summer, sources have told Football Insider. The Celtic hierarchy feel that the squad has been left weak in that area after some key injuries this season, and they're already planning to address that during the summer transfer window. The boys are still searching for their next permanent manager, leaving a major element of uncertainty to their plans for next season, but sources have indicated that defensive additions will be prioritised regardless of who comes into the dugout. Martin O'Neill's side are pushing to secure a Champions League place for next term, which could give them the power to spend a little more freely. Cameron Carter-Vickers has been an important figure at the centre of the boys' backline in recent seasons, and his prolonged injury absence has left them facing plenty of issues this term. The 28-year-old hasn't featured since October after he ruptured his Achilles tendon during the Europa League victory over Sturm Graz at Celtic Park. He's expected to remain sidelined until the end of the season, and his absence from the group has seen O'Neill's options stretched thin at the heart of the backline. Brentford loanee Benjamin Arthur has been trusted with just 16 minutes of football since his arrival in January, and Austin Trusty's suspension left O'Neill to turn to the inexperienced Dane Murray for last weekend's Old Firm derby. Celtic are trying to maintain a title challenge with just 4 senior centre-backs at the moment, 2 of whom are still finding their way in the game, and as a result, it's already been earmarked as an area for improvement ahead of next term. Former Aberdeen chief executive Keith Wines recently told Football Insider that years of poor European performances from Celtic and Rangers have been responsible for the Scottish Premiership losing a Champions League place for next term. Only one side will now have the chance to earn a spot in Europe's Premier Club competition for 2026-27, while the team that finishes 4th will now fail to secure continental football altogether. Wines feels that the changes will cause significant damage to Scottish football if they're not reversed as quickly as possible. The only way of doing that is to improve performances in domestic competitions, with the responsibility to do that next term likely to fall on Hearts, Celtic and Rangers. In other news, the refereeing team has been confirmed for Celtic's trip to Pittodrie on Wednesday night by the SFA. Nick Walsh will take charge of the Premiership clash with Aberdeen. He'll be assisted by Daniel McFarlane and Colin Drummond on the lines. Chris Graham is on VAR duty, with Duncan Williams as assistant VAR. It's not the first time Walsh has overseen a Celtic match this season. His most recent appointment involving the Hoops came at Celtic Park, where O'Neill's side produced a controlled 4-0 win over Dundee United. That was a straightforward afternoon with little controversy. Earlier in the campaign, Walsh handled Celtic's 2-1 victory away to Hibernian at Easter Road. That was a tighter game, with Celtic having to manage spells without the ball before taking their chances. His first Celtic fixture of the season came in the Premier Sports Cup semi-final against Rangers at Hampden in November. On that occasion, O'Neill's team ran out 3-1 winners after extra time in a game that demanded firm handling from the officials. Pittodrie presents a different challenge. Aberdeen at home will press early and look to feed off the crowd. Celtic will need to be sharper than they were in the first half at Ibrox. The referee's role becomes more noticeable in matches where the tempo is high and tackles fly in. Walsh is experienced at this level and no stranger to big fixtures. Celtic's focus, though, will not be on the officials. It'll be on controlling possession and managing the game better from the first whistle. With the title race tight and every point meaning so much, there's little margin for distraction. The referee team is now confirmed. The task for Celtic is clear. In other news, watching Celtic at Ibrox on Sunday felt like a turning point for Martin O'Neill. He deserves credit for grinding out results across 2 spells this season. There have been games where the performance dipped, but the points still came. That can only carry you so far. At Ibrox, when he turned to Reo Hatate and Sebastian Tunekti, it felt like something clicked. The second half was a return to patient possession. Call it the horseshoe of death if you want. The ball moved side to side, Rangers were shifted across the pitch, and Celtic waited for gaps instead of forcing them. It was a far cry from the quicker, more direct approach that's seen balls launched up towards Junior Adamu. That worked in Stuttgart for spells. It hasn't looked natural in Scotland. This squad has been coached for years to dominate through control. Ange Postecoglou drilled it in. Brendan Rodgers refined it. Wilfried Nancy pushed it too far at times and the players looked unsure. On Sunday, O'Neill found the middle ground. From half-time onwards, Celtic dominated at Ibrox while 2-0 down. That's not normal in this fixture. To take control in that stadium, with the crowd up and the game slipping, tells you something about the method. The draw didn't come from chaos or luck, it came from control. If Celtic are going to win this title, it'll be through that kind of authority on the ball. Hatate was central to that. He demanded the ball in tight areas and freed Callum McGregor to step higher. Once Celtic settled, Benjamin Nygren started doing the hard yards off the ball. Rangers couldn't press in the same way because the ball was moving too quickly. Tunekti benefited as much as anyone. Starting wide, he was able to receive the ball deeper and drive Celtic up the pitch. His end product can frustrate. The finishing and final pass aren't always there, but his ability to carry the ball at speed into dangerous areas is rare in this squad. When Celtic were patient and built properly, he had space to run into rather than chasing hopeful passes. Lastly, Johnny Kenny's impact at Bolton continued on Saturday, and Celtic supporters will have taken notice. The on-loan striker played a central role in Bolton Wanderers' 5-1 win, away at Exeter City. He scored one and set up another in a performance that showed the sharpness and movement that first caught Celtic's eye. Kenny's assist was the standout moment. Breaking into the channel, he got beyond his marker and drilled the ball across goal. Sam Dalby was left with a simple finish. It looked straightforward, but it came from Kenny's timing and willingness to stretch the back line. For a player still developing, these are the details that matter. At Celtic, competition for places is slowly growing. To return stronger, a striker needs more than goals. He needs to show he can influence games in different ways. Dalby was full of praise afterwards and made it clear how much Kenny's work off the ball helped the team. That's all the latest Celtic news for today. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below with your thoughts. I'll see you in the next one. Hail, hail.